Hey guys, what's up? This is Uri for Guerrilla Poker, and in this video I'm gonna be covering a few hands from the heads-up match between Limitless and Stefan. For those of you who haven't been following, big high stakes kind of grudge match. These guys are trash talking each other a lot. Limitless supposedly going to end Stefan's career. Stefan on the other hand doesn't really understand how it's even possible to lose money to Limitless. So kind of got some action for us. I'm just gonna walk through some of the hands. I don't know if you guys prefer like a deeper analysis of one or two hands, or just kind of browsing through them. So I'm gonna do one video like this, one video like that. Please let me know in the comments what you prefer. And with that being said, let's dive into the video. So first hand, Limitless raises to 230, they're 100 deep. We get deuce 5-7 rainbow. He c-bets kind of big. Now big c-bets are very common on these low disconnected boards. I think had the board been two-tone you'd go even bigger, or maybe even this board you should go bigger, but definitely on the big side. If you guys are thinking about, you know, all the third pot c-bets you see going around all the time these days, those are not so much for boards that are this dynamic, and they are not the optimal bet size here. So he bets this size, Stefan raises him. Check raise here is going to be kind of a range, you know, draws, backdoor draws, of course sets in two pairs. And then you also throw in a few hands that are going more for kind of protection than value, like an a7, a 4-5 backdoor flush draw kind of hand. You have all these kinds of hands in there on the flop. 10 of clubs turn, and now Stefan pots the turn. We're now almost fully polarized, so just a bunch of high equity draws and the 2-pair plus region. Limitless calls, and then we get the 4 of hearts, and here Stefan, rather than go all in, actually goes for a 1/3 pot sized bet, to which Limitless folds. Which, you know, shocker, usually we don't show hands where someone folds. More interesting to see showdowns, and maybe I'll skip ahead to a few of those, but these are kind of interesting to talk about, think about too. Like, why would Stefan bet 1/3? What does a 1/3 pot sized bet, or roughly 1/3, mean about what he thinks his range construction is? To check raise flop, pot the turn, I'm thinking, you know, a7, I don't know if that's good enough to pot the turn anymore, so I think you need like a 10 or better at this point. 4 of hearts brings in a bunch of draws, so 6-8 gets there, ace-3 gets there, 6-3 suited gets there. Not many combos of that going to be in Limitless's range. So first of all, you're devaluing all of your hands, but I would guess if you have like a good 2-pair plus, you get to still shove. That being said, maybe something like deuce 5 suited would actually want to value bet a bit smaller, and certainly if Stefan happened to have a hand with a 10, like a 10-6 of hearts that he's playing this way, I could definitely see the smaller bet size getting in there. I wouldn't expect this to be very common, but yeah, with 6-8, like the big offsuit straight coming in, and, you know, all the time higher cards counterfeiting your 2 pairs, I could see something like deuce 5 or 10-6 for Stefan. One of the interesting things about spots like these is, you know, I'm saying deuce 5 or 10-6, those are very specific hands. Most of Stefan's betting range is going to shove. And very often, when you pick a bet size that fits very specific hands, if you're not careful, you're just going to do it when you have those hands. So this is one of the leveling things that's going on in heads up is, you know, Stefan's picking these bet sizes. He's obviously winging it a lot in this match. Like, do you have the deuce 5, 10-6 always? Is this a size where you have 0 bluffs? Because you just shove your bluffs because that's like the intuitive sizing for the river? Or maybe you put all your bluffs in there because it's so obvious this is value, Limitless is never going to call, and you get these leveling wars, which I'm sure both of these players are very good at. But yeah, one of the issues with the multiple bet sizes is being balanced enough with them, and I should say deceptive enough with them, where it's not obvious what exactly you're doing to the other player. Okay, so let's look at this hand. The Limitless raises were 140 deep, so more kind of Wild West territory. People have not simmed these spots as much, they're not playing them as accurately. Stefan 3-bets, Limitless calls, we get a 3-7 jack 2-tone board. Not a particularly good board or a bad board for the 3-bet, I think it's kind of in between. And here Stefan pots the flop. Now the reason for picking a big flop size is that this board is very dynamic. By going with this big size, you put Limitless in a really tough spot with all, like, there are a million gut shots here, which if you bet small, they're just, you know, snap calling. This big bet size puts the gut shots in tough spots, puts hands like King Queen High or Queen 10 of Hearts in kind of tough spots. Definitely something that's good to do, and Stefan has always been a fan of kind of bigger, more polarized betting ranges. So he pots a flop, Limitless calls, checks the 5 of hearts turn. For what it's worth, like in terms of the range of spotting flop, I forgot to say this, we're talking like good top pairs plus for value, tons of bluffs, of course, and not really hands like sets or pocket aces. Those are not really the hands you want to put in a big bet range. It's more like, you know, king jack, ace jack, pocket queens type of hands. So 5 of hearts turn, Stefan checks. Checking after a big polarized bet, you're not gonna be continuing very often, so mostly should be check folding here. And Limitless makes a small bet, which makes sense. You're basically betting against a range that's some weak hands, some traps, and tons of give ups, so small bet makes sense. As you start sizing up, you just run into the traps a bit too much. There's not much incentive for you to do that. So Limitless bets small, Stefan calls. Here, you know, presumably Stefan could have a 5. He could have some draws that, you know, he can't barrel every draw. Maybe they're good enough to check call, definitely against this kind of small size. Some traps, some medium strength stuff, you know, kind of all over the place. Not really expecting a hand like ace jack to go into this line. And 5 of spades river, Stefan donk shoves the 5 of spades river. Here, of course, we're talking, you know, if you have a flush draw, a spade flush draw, of course that makes sense for value, but you're not really going to go pot flop check call turn with many spade flush draws. Maybe like a jack 10 of spades or something. I don't know. Not very often. But yeah, like I said, 5x, right? Like, if you potted flop with something with a 5, say ace 5 of diamonds, or 4 5 of diamonds, turn the 5, you go check call, river the 5, you have trips, you donk bet all in. That kind of makes sense. Definitely, you know, board pairing flush coming in, equity shifting card is definitely one on which donk bets could make sense. And Stefan shows down 6 of spades, 9 of diamonds, which is exactly the type of hand I mentioned, right? Pot the flop with some backdoor hand, and then the board's super connected, you don't want to barrel absolutely everything, so he decides to check with it on the turn. Faces a small bet, he can check call against this bet, and then he thinks, well, you know, this river, definitely bottom of my range, I should have some donk bets. Kind of makes sense. I'm saying kind of makes sense because I have a strong feeling, you know, P.O. Solver would not approve of a lot of the stuff going on here. I don't think this hand should 3-bet. I wouldn't guess that this hand should pot c-bet. And if I had to guess, the hand should maybe be barreling the turn more often than not. And if checking, maybe check shoving. I don't know about how this hand was played in terms of a solver. And yeah, Limitless calling jack 6 of diamonds. Just a bluff catch, right? Obviously, pure bluff catching is not beating any value. And you need to call these kind of hands sometimes. So I don't know, is he randomizing or what exactly he's doing? But we have a 280 big blind pot where both players made kind of sick plays. I think Stefan with a very, very creative bluff, very non-standard, and Limitless finds a call. So a cool hand to see, and we'll do one last one for this video. Another 3-bet pot. Limitless raises to 230. Stefan 3-bets to $1,099.99, and Limitless calls. We get the 6-5-5 two-tone board. Stefan can't really bet everything, if I had to guess, because just his 3-bet range misses a lot. So he's going to be a bit polar, right? Like have some strong hands betting. And then you want to check with a bunch of hands that want to realize equity. You have some traps, some medium strength stuff. Like the second you're being a bit polarized on the flop with a betting and a checking range, everything's kind of all over the place and ranges are just going to narrow down later. So he checks, Limitless bets, Stefan calls. Kind of a small bet, so we expect Stefan to have a bunch of high cards and, you know, some traps, some draws, kind of everything. 3 of clubs turn, Stefan checks, and now Limitless bets small. Now, why would he bet small on the 3 of clubs? Probably connected to the flush coming in. When the flush comes in, both players obviously having flushes in their range. Betting small gets you some protection and also lets you kind of keep your range wide. Very often with a flush being out there, you want the big bet to come on the river and kind of small bets to come earlier on where there are lots of hands that don't have a lot of flexibility. You still want protection. So that this kind of bet makes sense if you imagine, you know, having a hand like 6-7 of hearts, pocket 8, something like that for value. Where you don't really want to bomb it and go for stacks, but you do want to get more bets in. So, Limitless bets the small bet, Stefan calls. Queen of hearts river, Stefan checks. We have an all-in and Stefan calls. And Stefan shows the king of spades, queen of clubs, which very easy to play like this, right? Like once you check flop, obviously you're check calling with a backdoor. turn the flush draw and you face this small bet. Had you faced a big bet, maybe you have a tougher spot, but with a small bet, very easy call. And then you improve to top pair on the river, so very, very easy call on the river for Stefan, where Limitless just shows up with kind of your standard run-of-the-mill bluff, right? King 7 of hearts, kind of hand you want to sometimes bluff, sometimes not. It's actually not a very interesting hand. So I'll give you guys one more, given this one was actually not too interesting. So here we have a hand that's 135 deep, Stefan raises and Limitless calls. We get King, Queen, Jack, two-tone, and here Stefan pots the flop, overbets the turn, goes all in on the river. Turn and river are complete bricks, and Limitless calls, and the hands get showdown. Stefan has 10-9 for the flop straight, and Limitless has Queen of Hearts, 9 of Spades. For the what the hell are you doing, Limitless? Now, looking at a hand like this seems pretty crazy. To me, it just looks bad by Limitless. I think there is no excuse for calling something like Queen 9. As you get deeper and deeper, you get to be more selective with your bluff catches, and this is just not a very good bluff catch. Of course, that's technically speaking, but a lot of what's going on here is a leveling game. Because if you look at the board, King, Queen, Jack, Stefan has infinite hands to bluff with, like every ace high, 10 high, 9 high is a straight draw that presumably could triple barrel. So if you think he's overdoing those, bluff catching anything just starts printing. If I had to guess, neither Stefan nor Limitless is playing this spot very balanced. These guys are constantly in some kind of leveling war, where so far Stefan has definitely been getting the upper hand. There are infinite bluffs here for Stefan, but he doesn't have to pot them all on the turn. He doesn't have to barrel them all on the river. And he gets to control his frequencies, and at this point it's just a guessing game, right? It's easy to have too many bluffs. It's also easy to have too few bluffs. You get to kind of decide, you know, Limitless is going to have to make some hero calls. I don't think Queen of Hearts, 9 of Spades is one that he needs to make, personally. The way the all-in range works, it doesn't have to be, you know, just straights. I'm pretty sure it could be other hands. Probably better off calling two pairs or even hands with a 10 where you block two straights, both ace 10 and 10-9, rather than the 9 blocking just one straight. Technically, PO Solver would probably have this as a losing call, or a low frequency call, not a huge deal. But really in heads up, you know, it's about getting into the other guy's head or failing to get into the other guy's head. And there's a lot of that going on in these kind of hands. So when you see a hand like this, you see one guy who's, you know, putting all the money in with the nuts. This is something that, you know, if you guys check out our website, I have a course about how to improve your red line, where I talk about correct bet sizing and how important it is, and Stefan definitely knows how to do that. And the other guy's just playing a leveling game with him, presumably. I don't know, maybe he's random number generating stuff, but with Limitless, I don't think so. You know, Limitless is playing drunk half the time by his own admission, so I would guess this is more of a gut feeling play, and so far in this match, those are definitely not going in his favor. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you'd like me to cover more Stefan Limitless hands, very sweet make boy thin hands, random high stakes hands, my hands, whatever. Lots of potential stuff we could do. Just go over theory of some spots with solver, without solver. Just let me know if you guys have a preference. If you haven't checked out the Guerrilla Poker website, I would recommend that you do. We have a course about how to improve your red line, and we have some cool pre-flop GTO charts and some other material coming up soon. See you guys next time.